Ultimately, we are going to need more revenue. I don't think that revenue needs to come from tax increase. I think we need to become a more job-friendly state and give some big businesses some incentives to come to our state and put people in the 40th district back to work. Also, we do need to make cuts. There's a lot of what we like to call pork in our budget, and I think we need to go through line by line. I think we need to look at our forensic audit to make some cuts. The structural deficit, that is not going to get fixed overnight. That's a $13 billion deficit. But I do think we can at least start taking steps in that direction, and the first step would be that our year-to-year budget be balanced. Really, I think the cuts need to be shared across the board. Really, the one thing that I think we got to be very cautious about cutting is education. That is absolutely the future of our state and the future of our nation. Everything else in the state budget, I believe, can be cut. I somewhat agree with, actually not somewhat, I do agree with Mr. Senator Brady's proposal of a 10% cut across the board. Some main things would be the Medicaid system. If we get that to a managed care, get that to be ran by managed care. Also, more, right now all they have to do is show pay stub. That's it. There's no proof of residency within Illinois. So I feel we've got a lot of people coming from bordering states using our Medicare program. So I think those are some main things. Small things, but everything adds up. Is our fleet, reduce our fleet, get rid of our airplanes, all that kind of stuff. And just start making steps towards getting our budget balanced. I would not. I think a handful of things. One of them I think is, obviously contributions. Some contribution reforms to campaigns. Another thing that I would kind of categorize under that category is term limits. That's something that I believe that's where a lot of our problems stem from. People get in there for a long time, they get comfortable, and they start making deals. I think if we had, the Constitution wasn't set up for people to make a career out of politics. And unfortunately, that's what we've done here in Illinois. 10 years.
For all offices?
In Illinois, yes. I would consider that. Yes, I haven't. My thought. I think we have a large amount of our corruption stems from the state level, so that's my main focus right now. Without getting too much into the county boards and local government. But I wouldn't be opposed to looking at that. But absolutely for the state level, 10 years. Yeah, one thing just to add, that we all forget so often that, this is truly set up to be a duty. And we all talk about that, and all politicians use that, this is a service, this isn't our jobs. But, unfortunately, very few of them can actually back that up. And I am one that I will be able to back that up because I will still have a career as I'm a state senator. I think, I guess I wouldn't be completely opposed to that. There's, the process that they have in place is so difficult. I hate to say impossible, but almost impossible for an average citizen to be able to do that due process to recall somebody. I think you could put that on everybody. The one thing that is slightly different is for the current, for legislators, they're one vote, which one vote absolutely makes a difference, but they don't have the power that a governor has, that they can actually flip things if they are, being corrupt or abusing the system. It'd be a lot harder for a legislator to do that, to do the damage to what a governor could do. No, I think they can. I think absolutely. No, I think they can. I'm just saying, it's not a. I think we focus on things like this so often, where this isn't our major problem at hand. We just saw what governors did, and that's a big problem. And I think they've, somewhat addressed that problem. Quite frankly, I don't think they went far enough. But I'm not focused on putting in laws for recalling legislators. I'm focused on getting our balanced budget, or getting our budget balanced, getting, jobs back to Illinois. That's my focus. Absolutely, but I don't, I don't believe a single legislator stealing money from the state. I think they, unfortunately, we have the Chicago machine, which I believe creates a lot of corruption within our state and cost our states a lot of dollars. I think some big first thing we got to focus on is the government doesn't create jobs. What the government does is it can create an atmosphere for the private sector to create jobs. And currently Illinois doesn't have that atmosphere. We need to have an atmosphere that's business friendly. We need to have an atmosphere that's friendly to where someone wants to do a business and needs to start pulling permits and getting licensing and all that stuff through the EPA, that it's a faster process, that it doesn't take 18 months to 3 years like it currently does in the Illinois. And I'm not saying we lower our standards, but we do need to streamline some things, because you can get that kind of stuff done in less than half the time in our neighboring state of Indiana. Tax incentives. If someone's going to create a large amount of jobs, we need to look at giving them a tax incentive to get them to come to our state. With that, we need to tag to that a long-term agreement that once that incentive's over, they don't up and leave our state. So often our current legislation is trying to be given these tax incentives, and they're giving $1 million tax incentives, and we're creating 10 new jobs, and that just doesn't cut it. I think we need to talk into the hundreds of jobs before we start dishing out incentives. We've got big companies who can, put hundreds of families, hundreds of people to work in our district. That's something where we need to look at giving some incentives. If someone's coming in with 20 jobs, I don't think we look at that as an incentive. It's definitely that is a juggling act, in the sense of we look at, when you go across the state line and you look at casinos there and you see 90% Illinois plates, the first thought that goes through your head is, why shouldn't we have those funds staying within our state? On the flip side of that, it's not something we want to encourage. I don't think we want to encourage, gambling. Statistics show that, areas who have gambling, those areas surrounding the gambling boats or casinos, are typically a little more depressed of areas. So I don't think we want to encourage people to get on the wrong track by gambling. So that is a very delicate balance. I think we do need to look at it, though. I mean, it's an area that if it can create revenue for our state, I think it needs to be something we look at. I think some major changes that need to be made are, we need to hold our districts, we need to hold our teachers, we need to hold our administrators accountable. Right now, the unions have such a hold on our schools that's scary. And I'm not, let me be clear when I say I'm not saying we eliminate the unions, but I do think we need to hold them accountable. And currently, that's not being done. I do support the charter schools that are going on in Chicago. I think that is proven to be helping the children, giving a higher graduation rate, and I think we need to, fortunate we've got such a diverse district. There's some parts of our district that I think our public schools do a very nice job, and there's other parts that need help. And I think we need to get in there, and we need to hold them accountable. We need to, as a legislator, not continue to place unfunded mandates on our schools. I've served on the local school board for 6 years, and I know the pain of when the state puts another unfunded mandate on our district, and we have to meet the needs with no new funds, and that's very difficult to do, without cutting from somewhere else. You're essentially robbing Peter to pay Paul to make ends meet with an unfunded mandate. So I think as a legislator, that's the first thing we need to do, is stop these unfunded mandates. It's, as long as we have the Illinois State Board of Education, I think that needs to fall on their plates we have this office, and there's a lot of unknowns of exactly what they do in that office. Cost the state millions of dollars a year to have that. I think that's something that needs to be put on their plate, and whether they go into that school when we see poor progress on a regular basis and they stay there. Bottom line, we need less administrators in offices and more administrators in classrooms. So if we need to take them out of their offices in Chicago or Springfield and put them into the classrooms, then that's what we need to do. I think so often we have these organizations and these administrative positions, and we lose sight of the ultimate focus, and that's the classrooms. So I think we take some of them out of their offices and move them into those schools, into those classrooms, to ultimately see what happens. We absolutely should not, we have an obligation to the people in the pension system. So we absolutely, we need to do whatever it takes to make sure we meet those obligations. But we also need to do some major reform on all new pension programs. And that's something, we really need to dig into and look at and say, they've tried to make some reform, and quite frankly, I don't think it's enough. I think we need to look at a 401k system like we have in the private sector. But the current obligations, by all means, we have to meet those obligations, and it's going to be it's a hefty price to pay for us new legislators that are going to be coming in. That's going to be a balancing act trying to get those funded. But again, that's not the people in that program. It's not their fault that the pensions are in that place. I'm going to kind of go back to a little bit of term limits being one of the things. I think that'll absolutely help break that control. Secondly, I think we need to really look at the bigger picture as constituents this election cycle and from every election cycle here on out. And that's, this was not, the Constitution did not set up these state legislators to be a career. We need to look at people who I think still have careers, who still, who know that we're going down there, and I'm going to use myself as an example. I feel I'm going down there for all the right reasons. And I'm going to go down there and I'm going to give 2 years, because that's how long my first term is going to be. And I'm going to bust my tail to show the people of 40th District that they made the right decision by putting me there. Now, if they didn't make the right decision, if they feel after 2 years we're not better off than we are today, they won't re-elect me. And I still have a career to fall back on. And what that means is that I don't have to answer. So often our legislators follow the leadership. My opponent and so many of the other people out there, they're great people. Bottom line is they follow what Speaker Madigan and Senate President John Collerton say. And they don't have a voice of their own, and they don't have a voice of their own because they rely on that as their career. So they can't take the chance of upsetting their leadership in the next election cycle, not getting the well over $1 million that my opponent's going to spend in this election trying to defeat us. And that's what we can do to lessen the strength of we need people down there who have careers, whether it's working somewhere, or small business owners, whatever it is. I think it's crucial that they have careers, so they stay focused on being down there for the right reasons, being down there to get business done and be productive and move the state forward. And after that, going back to their careers. A small business owner.
What are the businesses you run?
We have Subway restaurants. We have 4 Subways. I went in Peatone, Beecher, Joliet, and Kankakee. Have a small pizza place in Peatone. And have an in-ground swimming pool company and a pool backyard retail store. I give you just a brief background. I'm 24 years old. I'm young, but I feel I've accomplished a lot. I owned my first Subway restaurant as I was 18. I worked very hard to get that. Both of my parents are blue-collar workers. My dad's a mechanic. My mom was a stay-at-home mom until probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and she went into road construction also. So we don't come from I don't come from a family of business. I don't come from a family of money. I've been very involved with our communities throughout my life. Like I said, I've been on the Peatone School Board for the last 6 years. I was awarded a Red Cross Hometown Hero Award a couple years ago for heading up efforts to rebuild a house that was going to be condemned